Hey, welcome to your morning devotion. We're going to jump right into it today. We're talking about good intentions. And we're going to start off, going right into it. So we'll start off with this statement. Good intentions are not enough to please God. Let's take a look. 1 Chronicles 13, and we'll dive into this, all right? It says, the headline here is the ark of the covenant is going to be brought from a certain town, and David is attempting to bring it into the capital. So starting off 1 Chronicles 13, verse 1, it says, Then David consulted with the captains of thousands and hundreds and with every leader. And David said to all of the assembly of Israel, If it seems good to you, and if it is of the Lord our God, let us send out to our brethren everywhere who are left in all the land of Israel, and with them to the priests and the Levites who are in their cities, in the common lands, that we're all going to gather together, and let us bring the ark of our God back to us. For we have not inquired at it since the days of Saul. And then everybody of the assembly says, all right, that sounds good. It says the thing was right in all of the eyes of all of the people. Everybody said, this is a great idea. Let's get the Ark of the Covenant back into our hands and let's use it again. We haven't inquired of it. We haven't asked God at the Ark of the Covenant, at the place where His Spirit is dwelling. We haven't asked Him. We haven't inquired of Him. Let's bring it back and let's make it part of our lives again. And so David goes and he gathers all the people together. And it says down here in verse 7, it says, So they carried the Ark of God on a new cart from the house of Abinadab, and Uzzah and Ahio drove the cart. So they're driving the cart, and on this cart rests the Ark of the Covenant, and they are worshiping. It says, verse 8, Then David and all Israel played music before God with all their might. They are praising God in an incredible, demonstrable way. They are singing, they're playing on harps, on stringed instruments, on tambourines, cymbals, and trumpets. They've got the whole marching band out there. I mean, they are really doing up their praise and their worship. They are exuberantly praising God. And it says in verse 9, they come to somebody's threshing floor. And Uzzah puts out his hand to stop the ark from falling off of the cart that it's being carried on, because the oxen that were drawing the cart, they stumbled, they kind of tripped, and so the cart got turned over a little bit. And so Uzzah puts out his hand to stop the cart from falling over. And then verse 10 says, the anger of the Lord was aroused against Uzzah, and he struck him because he put his hand to the ark, and he died there before God. So let's go over our story here, right? David says to the nation of Israel, hey, let's get everybody back together. Let's go get the Ark of the Covenant. Let's bring it back to us and use it. Inquire of the Lord. Talk to God. Positive thing. Great. All of the people say, this is a fantastic idea. And they do it. And they are bringing the Ark of the Covenant back on the cart. They're praising, they're worshiping God exuberantly. Everything seems to be going incredibly well. Everything is very well intentioned. They're worshiping God. But then the oxen stumble, the cart kind of judders, Uzzah puts out his hand, and God strikes him dead because he touches the Ark of the Covenant, and he was not supposed to. So David is just kind of sitting there scratching his head like, man, what do I do now? And he abandons the idea for a little bit and goes to take care of other things in the meantime. So the ark rests at a place. The person's name is Obed-Edom. He's a Gittite, and the ark stays there while David goes and takes care of other things. That brings in 1 Chronicles 14. David does those other things. And then 1 Chronicles 15 is our new chapter about David going back and trying to finish what he started here. So it says, David, he built for himself some houses, he built a place for himself, he prepared a place for the ark, he pitches a tent for it, and then he's got a new idea, or at least a refurbished idea as how to bring the ark into the city. So he says, the first instruction he gives is, no one can carry the ark of God except for the Levites. Nobody can touch the ark except for the Levites. Because why? Because Yahweh has chosen them to carry the ark of God and to minister before him forever. Then, verse 3 says, David gathered all Israel together at Jerusalem to bring up the ark of the Lord to its place, which he had prepared for it. And then David assembles the appropriate people who are going to sing and play music and who are going to carry the Ark of the Covenant. He gets them all together and they bring it up. So what are the differences between these two kind of situations? Because both times David is trying to bring the Ark into Jerusalem, into the place, into the city, into the place that he has prepared for it. And both times he is trying to bring it back because he wants that close relationship with God. He wants to be able to go to the ark and inquire to God, to talk to him, to ask him, hey, should I do this? Should I do that? What's the right decision here? So both of these things are good intentioned, but they're done in different ways. The first time that David tries to bring the ark back to Jerusalem, he's doing it as it seems good to him and the people. Now he says, you know, if it seems right to you, and if it is of the Lord our God. That's 1 Chronicles 13, verse 2. If it seems good to you, and if it is of the Lord our God, then let's do this. And the people said, yeah, it's good. But then David didn't exactly go and check out all kind of the stipulations and requirements that were in place around the Ark of the Covenant, around the resting place of God, which they had stipulations of requirement in the Old Testament. Only certain people, only the Levites can handle the Ark of God, only they can move it. And so when that was broken, when those rules were broken, then we see the consequence of Uzzah reaching out, touching the cart, and he dies. So the difference between these two attempts is they both had good motives. They were both well-intentioned, but one was done obediently and one was done just as seemed best to the people. Now, going back to 1 Chronicles 13, they're worshiping and they're praising God, and it's like, okay, but this is good intention, right? They're trying to draw close to God, so why are they getting punished? Well, this kind of instance, whenever it's talking to us and it's describing, you know, David and all of Israel playing music before God with all their might. They're singing on harps, on stringed instruments, on tambourines, on cymbals, and on trumpets. It reminds me of that verse that Paul writes. He says about using the spiritual gifts. He says, you know, if I do this without love, then I'm as a clanging cymbal. If I'm using the spiritual gifts without love, then basically I'm just making a whole lot of noise. I'm just running my mouth. And it kind of reminds me, whenever I'm reading this, of that scripture, that whenever we try and go about life in our own ways, even though we may be well-intentioned, if we're not doing it in a way that's obedient to God, then we are as, you know, a clanging cymbal. We're like David and all of Israel, we're just making a bunch of noise. We may be trying to do the right thing, but if we're not doing it in God's way and we're doing it in our own way, then we're just making a bunch of noise. We're just a big parade down the street that's not going to lead to any fruitful or any good end result. We're just making a bunch of noise. So the difference here, the lesson here is that while we can go throughout our lives doing things with good intentions, David wants to bring the Ark of the Covenant back. He wants to serve God. These are all great things. While he wants to do that, he's acting in good intentions. Good intentions aren't enough. We have to act in obedience to God. So make sure that as we live our lives, the conclusion today is that we need to be acting in obedience to God. Good intentions are not enough. We need to be obedient to him, to his word. And whenever we do that, then our lives and our efforts that we put in are going to be fruitful. All right? So be fruitful, be obedient, have good intentions, but act out them in a proper way. All right? I hope this helps you here today. Take care. Have a wonderful day. God bless.